joining us here into the conversation is the one and only Adam Hoge here doing his thing. How we doing, Adam? You feeling good?
What's up,
How's
man?
your Thursday?
What's up, guys? Yeah, it's been a busy morning. Just heard from Jaquan Brisker here. We're at the end of camp, guys. I think the biggest thing we learned is that Jaquan Brisker has handshakes with every single defensive player. He's got one with Caleb that will probably debut against the Titans.
Uh-oh.
And he's working on having one with the entire offense.
So he's like the Big Dave from CHGO Bulls.
Yeah.
Has a handshake with everyone in the office, with the exception of me, Herb. And then
I don't have one.
So me and Adam, this is company I don't want to keep, Herb. And so, Big Dave has got something against the Bears crew, apparently.
Wow.
Won't give us handshakes. Then when I tell Big Dave that I have an issue with this, now he's like,
wait, Carm has one?
I don't think he has one. I mean,
I don't think he's coordinated enough to have one.
That's true. That's true. Well, we know if he did have one, it'd be super goofy. But yeah, Big Dave, want my handshake. Been waiting for it for 2 years now. So, Adam, I know that Richard Hightower spoke. DeAndre Swift just got done speaking. You said you talked to Jaquan Brisker. Take it from wherever you want to start and what you learned here today at Halas Hall.
Yeah, I think from DeAndre Swift, the biggest headline from him was just the praise for Caleb Williams. I mean, it's almost getting stale at this point, guys. Like the amount of guys that are going out of their way to say something. But this is, I keep having to say this to people, like it's very different from, some of the praise that we've heard with the past two quarterbacks that were here, where it was like, it seemed like it came more from a place of like just being a good teammate, defending your teammate, which these guys, for the most part, are always going to do. You're rarely ever going to have players throw the quarterback under the bus, although it does happen sometimes. This time it just feels different because people are kind of going out of their ways to do this. DeAndre Swift saying today, his urge to get better. I can't say that enough. You can tell he wants to be great. That's what you look for. So I say it gets stale because everybody's doing it, but I feel like it's like meaningful because guys are going so far out of their way to say things that really have some meaning behind it. Of course, we're just at the point where everybody wants to see the actions. We've seen it in the preseason. Yep. I mean, Caleb's backed it up so far. You guys had a great discussion with Tim Jenkins. I heard most of it, with him kind of breaking down some of that stuff and how it should translate to the regular season. I agree with Tim that there are definitely going to be a lot of moments, I think, especially in the first half of the season, that look a lot like that Bengals game where shaky here, you're getting frustrated with a couple 3-and-outs here. But, the one thing I think that we haven't seen much, though, speaking of DeAndre Swift, is DeAndre Swift's impact on all this. Like, would the Bears have gone 3-and-out against the Bengals if they had actually been running their running game?
Right.
And what I mean by that, like, I don't think they're going to come out against the Titans and throw on first, second, and third down like they did in that preseason game. Like, the objectives are completely different. Your objectives in the preseason are to test Caleb, to get him to see different looks as much as you possibly can against vanilla defenses, but to put him in situations where he needs to respond so that you can continue to develop him. Development still matters. It is still the biggest priority of this season in the grand big picture of things. But in the micro, when you get in, between those lines on Sundays, that coaching staff cares about winning the football game. So they're going to run their game plan to win the game. And that's going to be way more run heavy than we've seen in the preseason. And I actually can't wait to see what DeAndre Swift can do because he's looked so damn good. And I think they've been holding him back from everyone because they don't want the Titans or anyone else to see it in the preseason.
That was one of the things I was going to ask both of y'all about was how dynamic DeAndre Swift has looked to me. He's looked more dynamic than I thought he was. I knew he could do some of those things, but he's looked more dynamic than I thought he was coming into when the Bears signed him. But I want to go back to a couple of things you said first, Hoge, talking about the praise on Caleb. What I like about it and how different it is from before is that it's like football praise. Like, it's not like, oh, that's my dude, I love him, I like him. it's like football stuff, and you hear it from both sides of the ball, and that matters. But also when you talk about it getting like boring and stale because we just keep hearing it, that's consistent with what Ryan Poe said when they were kind of going through the process of vetting him and trying to get all the background they could. He's like, we just kept asking as many people as we could, and we couldn't find anybody to say something other than what we were already hearing about how good he was at this, how driven he was about that. And so eventually we were just like, okay, we got to just stop looking for this negative stuff we're looking for. It is what it is. And maybe it does get boring, but it's the best kind of boring you could possibly have from a rookie prospect that you expect to lead your franchise for at least the next decade and a half.
Yeah, 100%. I think, but again, now we got to see the results. But it's definitely feels different, sounds different. This is why we get paid to do what we do here, kind of when we're inside the building, because it takes some time to decipher what's truly real, what's truly meaningful behind what I would, call player speak. Just like there's coach speak, there's player speak.
Yep.
And then you end up hearing some different things behind the scenes. This time with Caleb, it's like everything you're hearing on the mic is what you're also hearing off the mic. Now we just got to see it all backed up. Otherwise, the other big discussion here this morning is the long snapper situation. The Bears going out and switching things up here. I think this is actually a story. I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. In fact, I'm even having to check my what's his name? It's something Daly. Man, this is Scott Daly.
John Daly.
John Daly. They signed John.
He's gonna be smoking a cigarette with a Miller Lite in his hand while he long snaps.
Is it John?
No,
it's Scott.
No,
I'm just the golfer John Daly is one of my spirit animals.
Yeah, no. I do find this interesting that Cam Lyons has been here throughout, basically. The tell to me, though, guys, is we got down to the 53 that they might go get a different long snapper, was that they briefly did cut Cam Lyons back early, right at the beginning of the preseason games. They cut him, and then they ended up bringing him back when they on short notice after that Hall of Fame game, and so that was sort of an indication that was at that point they thought they had a healthy Patrick Scales, but it was still an indication that he wasn't. It certainly wasn't like a competition or anything that was going on. Right. And if you're not having a competition, then I don't know if you're really, viewing that guy as, NFL Sunday week 1 ready. And then we saw some of his snaps. People need to understand this, that, a snap up here at the high school level, you're living with that. You're probably happy with that. Yeah. At the NFL level, for people that don't understand this, the strike zone is not like this. It's like the
size of the football.
Like, yeah, the ball
dots.
Yes, dots. And that ball, because you're trying to get that, it's like 1.2 seconds is ideal from the snap to the kick. And anything up here adds on time to that. And it screws up the whole operation. So even some of those snaps, that was a great test for Tory Taylor, because we got to see Taylor. Yeah, I mean, it was good because you got to see him catch one up here and pull it down like perfectly. That was a very good sign for the holder situation. But, these guys that are fully dialed in as long snappers, literally the rotation of the ball is so exact that when the holder catches it, they're catching the laces in the right spot so that they don't have to spin it. I mean, and if you think about it, we're talking about long snapping at the absolute highest level where you're making good money doing it. And that's all you're working on, other than obviously you do have to get downfield and cover. Sure. And you do have to block. But for the most part, you're working on that all day. That's how you get so dialed in on the spin ratio to that point that you can consistently do that. And so when you have younger guys or, just fringe roster guys, they're not going to be that dialed in. I don't know that Scott Daly's going to be as dialed in as Patrick Scales, but that's why I wasn't surprised that they went out and got somebody else. And you can bring somebody else in who's already at that higher level, and they're going to be just fine walking in the building and being able to do it. They might have to learn a couple things here in your punt scheme, from an install standpoint to be able to cover. But for the most part, we're not talking about too, crazy X's and O's from the long snapper standpoint. And that's why I think you're seeing this change last minute, and it will be a new snapper week 1.
Yep.
Have y'all ever seen Patrick Scales without the ball? Like at practice?
Like when he doesn't have the ball?
When he doesn't have a ball in his hand, like he always has a ball. He may be like the best ball handler on the team. He walks up and down the field. To people who don't get the chance to see this at practice, he just walks up and down the field, literally dribbling the football, bouncing on the ground, bouncing right back up to himself, dribble it again. It's like, this is a football. How are you dribbling this football down the football field? He's got that kind of ball skills.
He's the professor.
Yes, exactly. Sleeping with his football under his pillow. Keymon James in the chat saying that's some deep analysis from Adam Hoge there on how to long snap the ball. We had the quarterback guru, and now we have the special teams guru here joining us, Adam Hoge here from Halas Hall, as we're wrapping up here on the show. And there's nothing that Adam gets more excited about than special teams. And hey, here in Chicago, we just put a special teamer in the Hall of Fame, damn it. So we value it here in Chicago. Anything else, as we start to wind this down here with you, Adam, anything of note that you wanted to point out before we let you loose?
The Vikings, I don't know if you guys touched on this, but Brett Rippon ended up signing to the Vikings 53-man roster.
Traitor.
Yeah. Not just, I think it was the 53. I don't think it was just the practice squad, because they made they let Jaron Hall go, who was their draft pick from last year out of BYU, who frankly looked awful when he got into the game. And that was a guy I kind of like, Jaron Hall. So I'm not bragging about that one. So Brett Rippon goes to Minnesota. Yeah. And they might have the playbook. Here's the thing though, no divisional games for the Bears until the second half of the season. So it's not like the Vikings by then are going to have a deep analysis of what's on film already. It's not like they're playing in week 2. So not terribly worried about that. But yeah, Brett Rippon might be able to give them some tiny insights on some checks, that are built in, some, ways to force a check based on a certain look that you can give them defensively. And we already know that Flores' system up there caused Justin Fields a lot of problems. You're either bringing the house or dropping an 8 constantly. And that is going to be one of the more unique tests that the Bears face all season, that Caleb Williams as a rookie quarterback is going to face. But
Brett might get some clock up there. It's not like they've got all pro quarterbacks in front of him now. Like, he might end up getting some starts up there, either for health or for performance. Like, I could see a path to him getting on the field, later in the season or at some point.
Yeah, it's Sam Darnold and Nick Mullins and Brett Rippon. And like, Darnold's easily the best out of those guys. I think it's, well down the list of NFL storylines this year, but I do think Sam Darnold is a story. This is a guy that has struggled with turnovers his entire career. It's been the thing that's killed him. We know he's talented. But, he gets this like 1-year internship in San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan. I think if you're somebody who turns the ball over as much as he has throughout his career, you're probably going to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be some benefit to being in San Francisco for a year. And I think he is the best option they have. Will probably stick with the job unless he gets hurt. And then to your point, Herb, if there is an injury there with Darnold, I mean, Rippon could give Mullins, a run. And we saw last year the Vikings had to play 3 or 4 quarterbacks, so it could happen again. And I got the feeling from Brett Rippon talking last week that he might be looking for a different opportunity where maybe the path to playing time was a little bit more obvious. Here in Chicago, not only do you have Caleb, but you also have Tyson Bagent, who's one of the better backups in the league. I mean, you don't have a path to a real NFL opportunity right now if you're the third or fourth
for like
string
10 years. You can't see past the 2 dudes in front of you for like 10 years. So nah.
All right, Adam. Well, I'm done talking to you for the day. Sick of talking to you every day. Got to talk to you. No,
I'm talking to Herb though.
That's true.
Herb and I are having a conversation.
That's true. I'm putting super chats in the show while you guys are having a nice, lovely conversation. No, I appreciate you. You go ahead.
They didn't pass today, right?
I believe so. I believe that's what Flu said. Now practice starts here in about 7 minutes, so I haven't been out there yet. But Flu said last week that it was going to be 2 padded practices. So, and they got the whole weekend off coming here. They'll probably have a light practice Monday. That's usually how it's handled on Labor Day. But yeah, I would go pads. And I will say this too: if I'm Mark Carman, just some advice. I would highly recommend not to put another tennis photo in our Slack channel. But it's up to him. If he wants to keep pushing buttons, maybe he won't have a job next week when he comes back.
I mean, Caleb Williams has really shown an ability to have self-awareness, and Mark Carman, just on vacation, while we're all doing like 5 shows a day here this week in Hell Weeks, while he's just been in, hanging out in the forest at Camp Nabagabons and the US Open. But hey, whatever we got to do to get Carm ready for the season and focused.
Yeah, which he's not. But like 3 weeks ago, I was like, this is gonna be grind week. This is gonna be it. And then I was like, wait, it didn't really change. Last week was also grind. Now we're in the 3rd week of grind week. So it's been grind weeks.
Grind weeks.
I think we're all looking forward to Labor Day weekend here.
It's
guys.
funny because this whole month, and hey, we're living the dream here. No complaining, no complaints. If the chat feels like it sounds like we're complaining, but it is ironic that this is the hardest time. When the season starts, it's going to start to slow down, in terms of
it gets on like autopilot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until they make that deadline trade for DN.
So Bragg, I know, and it's all happening. And Braggs, you're going to be doing the show with Carmen tomorrow. Actually, I think would be a funny bit if you like quiz him, like
on the 53 man, or
but like deep, like who is like he? There's no chance he knows who Scott Daly is. I mean, I started this hit by not remembering his first name, so there's no chance he knows who Scott Daly is.
Yeah, just play bear or not a bear with him. Like change Chris Williams' name.
All right, I'll do that. I'll do a bear or not a bear at the back end of the show. We got Mark Carman returning tomorrow and Mark Potash joining us as a special guest. We're going to break down all our hits on Hard Knocks, all the different times we've made Hard Knocks. We're going to go through them step by step and see which one he liked the most. So
all right, I'm bringing this to air. Because this is the first time hearing Potsy's on the show tomorrow.
Yes.
John's booked him for Hoge and John's tomorrow too.
Oh my God. Me and John's are like
you guys are in the water
on each other. Yeah. Me and
John. He wanted Adam Amin, and we already booked Adam next week to come in studio.
Yeah.
And then Potsy, then we booked Potsy, and now so you know what? Live with it, people. You're getting double dose of Potsy tomorrow, and that's the way it's going to be.
The world needs more Potsy. He does Twitter so well. Did you see the shot he took at CHGO Bears for the excitement about Hard Knocks? It's hilarious. Like nobody Twitters better than Potsy.
I'm 2 days off my knee surgery and having a good time on Twitter with my father-in-law, like cutting up every part of my landscaping. And then he started giving me crap for that. Like, I can't even have one day of fun while my leg is incapacitated. But Potsy always keeps us honest. So tomorrow he's going to come on and keep me and Mark Carman honest. Then he's going to go on with Hoge and John. So Potsy's doing the media tour tomorrow, just like Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze have been doing all week. We get the Potsy media tour tomorrow. So, Adam, we appreciate you coming on for an extended time here today on CHGO Bears. Next week, we all return on Tuesday after Labor Day, back to our 12 p.m. Central time slots. So excited to get into week 1 game week coverage. We'll see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.